Thank you, Brother Tom and Brother Tom. You guys start a radio show, Tom and Tom in the morning. Go over really well. Just wanted to say thank you to everyone for all your efforts during the midterm elections. We were very successful. I want to say thank you to Lauren and the MMPL team back east. They put together a great program in a relatively short amount of time last year, and we were very successful. So I want to talk about our targets in the Western Territory. We had 4 of them. We had Mark Kelly for Senate in Arizona, Katie Hobbs for Governor in Arizona, Catherine Cortez Masto for Senate in Nevada, and Steve Sisolak for Governor in Nevada. Unfortunately, we were not successful in the Steve Sisolak campaign, but that was due to his flawed record and his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. That just he couldn't live that down. So unfortunately, that was the only race we lost. And in that effort, we were able to collectively make calls to over 6,000 IAM voters who were likely supporters to our causes. And we dropped literature at over 1,500 IAM households, and that's just in the Western Territory, which is a tremendous amount of work in a short amount of time. And if you've done any political work like that, picking up the phones to phone bank, knocking on doors, lobbying your Congress people, it is tedious work. It's tiresome. If you're a rank and file member, you're doing it after work hours. If you are a full-time rep, those calls and emails don't stop coming while you're campaigning. So again, thank you for the effort. It is extremely valuable, extremely important, especially in today's climate where margins to victory are extremely narrow. And they're only going to get more narrow as we get more and more divisive in this country. This might be the understatement of the century, but politics is messy. It's easy to tear down what somebody else has built up, and it is extremely difficult to build back up what somebody has torn down. So part of my duties as a Western Territory Grand Lodge representative is overseeing the National Labor Relations Board work for the regional office. And we've had a significant number of victories thanks to the Biden appointments to the NLRB and the General Counsel. Since the appointment of General Counsel Jennifer Abruzzo, we've seen a return to specialty healthcare, which makes it easier for us to organize smaller units and carve out so that we don't have to go wall to wall on every campaign. They've adjusted what they will consider as a make-whole remedy for when employers engage in unfair labor practices, which takes into account not just lost wages, but things like mortgages if you've lost a house as a result of going 6 months to a year without a favorable ruling from the NLRB. And it takes into account all pecuniary damages that an employee might have faced in that time. And they're seeing those rolled back and awarded to them. They've expanded remedies for the most egregious employers who commit repeated unfair labor practices, especially in the course of organizing activity. There was a recent ruling where an administrative law judge is forcing Howard Schultz to read a 14-page remedy that outlines everything he's done to break the law in all of the Starbucks organizing campaigns.
Yeah.
I haven't seen an update if he's actually come through with it, but I will report back on when and if he does. And most recently, they've updated how they view workers engaging in protected concerted activity. Under the Trump administration, they maintained that workers were viewed through a lens of normal workplace activity, right? So if you are, trying to organize and organizing a rally or a protest outside your employer, they want you buttoned up and not using anything to be considered profanity. And if you were found to have done any of that, the board wouldn't have taken your case. They would have told you to pound sand. But the Biden administration, NLRB, has returned to a point where each action is viewed through a lens where it might get a little heated when somebody is engaged in protected concerted activity. It might get a little profane when somebody is down on their luck and an employer keeps pushing the screws to them. But all of these things go away if we don't win the White House next year. And I know it's sort of relatively early to start talking about it, but we need to. If we don't, and we're behind the 8 ball, all of these things go away, and in the blink of the eye, we go right back to when workers are mistreated and employers treated more favorably. Unfortunately, where we're at now with the NLRB, they've gotten their first funding increase in 10 years. And what that means is they've been able to stave off what they've lost over those past 10 years, and we're still at a 50% reduction in staff for the NLRB to conduct its work, which means delays happen in unfair labor practice charges, delays happen in representational proceedings. And each time those delays happen, the employers win every single time. Workers get disheartened, they start to give up hope, and we end up losing campaigns and we end up losing membership over it. Which is why it's important for us to maintain the White House, not only to keep funding the NLRB, but to also build back what we've lost over those last years. So finally, I just want to close with a little bit of encouragement. I want to encourage you to get your locals to contribute the $1 per member suggested donation to the MMPL Education Fund. That money is extremely important when it comes time for campaigning and lobbying. That's what we use to educate our members. That's what we use for lost time to send people knocking on doors and phone banking. Encourage your locals to hold sponsoring membership drives. And while it takes money to win a campaign, it also takes people. So encourage your fellow members and officers to get engaged in a member-to-member outreach program wherever you are. And for all of you who participated in the Western Territories program, I can't thank you enough. And please keep fighting the good fight. And thank you for your time.